Groom got caught up talking and forgot the wedding. The bride's reaction was... Emily Thompson adjusted her veil for the 10th time as guests murmured in the church hall. It was already past 5 in the afternoon, and Ryan still hadn't shown up for the ceremony scheduled for 4 o'clock. Her phone vibrated with a message that shattered her world. A photo sent by her cousin showed Ryan at Joe's bar, laughing loudly with friends, a beer in hand and his tie loosened. He had completely forgotten about his own wedding. "Emily, dear, I'm sure it's just a delay," whispered Mrs. Margaret, her future mother-in-law, trying to ease the tension. "A delay of an hour, Mrs. Margaret," Emily replied, her voice trembling. Father Michael approached, concerned about the growing chatter among the 200 guests. Some were already rising from the pews, others repeatedly checking their phones. "My child, would you like me to say something to the crowd?" the priest asked gently. Emily looked at the altar decorated with white rose arrangements she had picked herself. 3 years of engagement, 8 months of preparation for this day. Every detail carefully planned, every penny saved to make her dream wedding come true. "No, Father. I'll handle this myself." She lifted the satin skirt of her dress and walked down the church's center aisle. The whispers grew louder. Her mother, Mrs. Barbara, tried to grab her arm. "Honey, where are you going dressed like that?" "To get my groom, Mom." Outside the church, Emily hailed a cab. The driver's eyes widened at the sight of a bride climbing into the back seat. "To Joe's bar on Oak Street, please." "Miss, are you sure? Shouldn't you be getting married right now?" "I should be." The 15-minute ride felt endless. Emily's heart pounded against the bodice of her dress. How could Ryan have forgotten? They had talked just the night before, confirmed the time, gone over the final details. Joe's bar was a simple neighborhood spot, mostly frequented by men after work. Through the window, she could see Ryan at the center of a round table, gesturing animatedly as he told some story to his friends. Matthew, his best man, was laughing so hard he leaned on the table. Justin and Brandon, the other groomsmen, were clapping. Emily took a deep breath and pushed open the bar door. The entrance bell caught some customers' attention, but Ryan was so engrossed in conversation he didn't even notice. It wasn't until silence fell over the room that he turned his head. The amusement on his face turned to pure terror. "Emily, why are you here?" "That's a good question, Ryan. Why am I here?" Every eye in the bar turned to the scene. Joe, the owner, stopped wiping glasses behind the counter. "Sweetheart, I can explain," Ryan said quickly, nearly knocking over his chair. "Then explain." "Explain why I'm in a wedding dress at a bar while 200 people are waiting for us at the church." Matthew tried to intervene. "Emily, we were just unwinding a little before the ceremony." "Unwinding?" She glanced at the wall clock. "It's 5:20, Matthew. Our wedding was at 4. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, messing up the gel he'd so carefully applied that morning. "I lost track of time, love. We were talking and what was so interesting about the conversation that you forgot your own wedding?" An awkward silence filled the bar. Justin stared down at his drink. Brandon fidgeted nervously with his phone. "It was nothing serious, Emily," Ryan said. "Just guy talk." Joe walked over to the table, wiping his hands on his apron. "Miss, with all due respect, your fiancé spent the last hour telling his friends how you're too uptight, that marriage would be good for you to learn to loosen up a little." Emily Thompson's face went pale. Ryan shot a furious glare at Joe. "So you didn't have to." "Yes, I did," interrupted the bar owner. "My wife died 5 years ago, and I'd give anything to have one more day with her. You young folks don't know how to appreciate what you have." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now continuing. Emily felt the tears burning her eyes, but she refused to cry there, in front of those men. "Ryan, did you really say that?" "Emily, it wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," Joe confirmed. "And he also said that after you got married, he'd keep coming here whenever he wanted because a man needs his time with the boys." "Is that true, Ryan?" Ryan looked to his friends for support, but they all avoided his gaze. The situation had become far too awkward. Sweetheart, you're taking this all wrong. I had a few drinks and talked nonsense. You know how I get. I know a lot of things, Ryan. I know you got here at 2. I know our ceremony was at 4. I know you had plenty of time to remember where you were supposed to be. She pulled off her engagement ring and placed it on the beer-stained table. Emily, don't do this, Ryan pleaded. Let's just go to the church now. We'll figure this out later. Figure out what, Ryan? The fact that you forgot our wedding? Or the fact that you badmouthed me to your friends? I didn't badmouth you. No? Then explain what you meant by me being too uptight. Ryan tried to take her hands, but Emily pulled away. Sweetheart, I didn't mean... Yes, you did. And you know what? You're right. I am uptight. Uptight enough to show up on time to my own wedding. Uptight enough not to humiliate my fiancé by talking behind his back. She turned to leave, but Ryan followed her. Emily, wait. We can't cancel everything over a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? She stopped at the door. You forgot our wedding, Ryan. There's no misunderstanding about that. But what about the guests, the money we spent? The money I spent, you mean? Because my father paid for the church, I paid for the dress, my family paid for the catering. Ryan paled. It was true. He'd only contributed to the drinks, and even then he'd complained about the cost. Emily, please. Please what, Ryan? That I pretend this didn't happen? That I swallow the humiliation and walk down the aisle like nothing's wrong? Outside the bar, a small crowd had gathered, curious about the argument. Mrs. Susan, the neighbor, whispered to her friend about the commotion. Do you really want to make a scene in the middle of the street? Ryan asked, uneasy under the stairs. A scene? You've already made the scene, Ryan. I'm just dealing with the fallout. Emily hailed another cab and got in without looking back, even as Ryan shouted her name from the sidewalk. Back at the church, she found a heartbreaking sight. Half the guests had already left. Those who remained huddled in small groups, some clearly annoyed by the situation. Mrs. Margaret rushed to her. Emily, dear, where's Ryan? I don't know, Mrs. Margaret, and honestly, I don't care anymore. What do you mean? Did you two fight? We didn't fight, I just found out who he really is. Mrs. Barbara, her mother, approached with red-rimmed eyes. Honey? What happened? Mom, the wedding's off. A murmur spread through the remaining guests. Aunt Pamela, always dramatic, clutched her chest as if she were about to faint. Cancelled? But dear, why? Emily looked around the church. She saw the confused and worried faces of people she loved, people who had dressed up, left their homes, some even traveled from other cities just to celebrate her wedding. Because the groom decided he had more important things to do, Father Michael discreetly approached. My child, would you like to talk in private? Thank you, Father, but there's nothing left to discuss. I apologize to everyone for the inconvenience. She stepped onto the altar and picked up the microphone meant for the ceremony. Everyone, may I have your attention? The chatter stopped immediately. All eyes turned to her. First, I want to apologize for you coming here for nothing. I know many of you went out of your way to be here today. Her voice trembled slightly, but she continued. The wedding is cancelled because the groom... She paused. Because the groom forgot to show up. Gasps of shock echoed through the church. Grandpa George, Emily's grandfather, stood up indignantly. What do you mean he forgot, girl? He was at the bar, Grandpa, drinking with his friends. That boy was never any good, the old man grumbled. I always said there was something off about him. Mrs. Margaret tried to defend her son. Everyone, let's calm down. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding. Ryan's a good young man. With all due respect, Mrs. Margaret, Emily said, a good young man doesn't forget his own wedding. Just then, Ryan rushed into the church, followed by his friends. He'd tried to fix his tie and hair, but he still reeked of beer. Emily, sweetheart, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead with the ceremony. I'm here now. Father Michael looked at Emily, waiting for her decision. No, Ryan, we're not going ahead with anything. But Emily, you had your chance to be here at 4 o'clock. You chose to be somewhere else. Ryan tried to step closer, but his own best man, Matthew, grabbed his arm. Dude, let her go. You messed up big time. Traitor, Ryan muttered. Traitor. Matthew raised his voice. A traitor is someone who forgets his own wedding to brag at a bar. Their argument drew even more attention. Mrs. Barbara stood up, determined. Enough. Everyone go home. There'll be no wedding today. She turned to the priest. Father Michael, thank you for your patience. I'm so sorry for all this trouble. Don't worry, Mrs. Barbara, these things happen. They happen when someone lacks responsibility, Grandpa George added, shooting Ryan a stern look. One by one, the guests began heading for the exit. Some offered Emily words of support. Others simply hugged her in silence. Aunt Pamela approached her. Sweetheart, are you sure about this? I am, Aunt. For the first time in a long while, I'm absolutely sure. But what about all the preparations, the money spent? Money can be earned back, Aunt. Dignity can't. Ryan was still trying to argue with some guests, insisting it was just a misunderstanding, that Emily was overreacting. Mr. Robert, Emily's father, who had stayed quiet the whole time, finally walked up to Ryan. Son, I think you'd better leave. Mr. Robert, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. I understand my daughter deserves better. But I love her, Mr. Robert. Love isn't just words, boy. It's action. And your actions today made it very clear how you feel about my daughter. Ryan tried to protest, but Mr. Robert continued. You had 3 years to prove you were a responsible man, 3 years to show you deserved my daughter, and on the most important day, you chose a bar stool. The words of Emily's father echoed through the nearly empty church. Even Mrs. Margaret hung her head, with no way left to defend her son. Ryan left the church with his head down, followed by his embarrassed friends. Matthew still tried to apologize to Emily, but she just waved him off, too tired for more conversation. When the church finally emptied, only Emily's family remained. She sat in the front pew, still in her wedding dress, staring at the decorated altar. Darling, Mrs. Barbara sat beside her. Do you want to go home and change? Not yet, Mom. I need to process all this. Mr. Robert approached the two. Emily, I know today was hard, but you made the right choice. Dad, I planned this day for 8 months. I dreamed about it for 3 years. And you'll still have your special day, sweetheart, just with the right person. Grandpa George, who had stayed quiet until then, finally spoke. Listen, child, let me tell you something. When I was young, I dated a girl who left me at the altar. Emily looked at her grandfather, surprised. Really, Grandpa? Yes. And back then, I thought it was the end of the world. But 3 months later, I met your grandmother. Then I understood God had other plans for me. You never told that story before. Because it wasn't the right time. But now it is. Sometimes life protects us from choices that aren't good for us. Emily smiled for the first time that day. Thank you, Grandpa. Father Michael returned to the church to lock the doors. Emily, may I share something? Of course, Father. In 30 years of officiating weddings, I've learned one thing. It's better to discover someone's character before marriage than after. You're right. And another thing. Today, you showed a strength many women don't have. That's admirable. Emily felt her eyes well up again, but this time not from sadness. Father, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you think I overreacted? That I should have given him a second chance? The priest thought for a moment before answering. My child, second chances are for those who show true remorse. Someone who forgets their own wedding and still tries to justify their mistake. Well, that says a lot about their character. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, continuing. When they finally got home, Emily went straight to her room. The wedding dress that had cost her so much sacrifice now felt unbearably heavy on her shoulders. Mrs. Barbara helped her remove the veil and unbutton the bodice. Mom, did I do the right thing? Darling, you did the only thing a self-respecting woman could do. But what if I never find anyone else? What if this was my only chance to be happy? Mrs. Barbara stopped fiddling with the buttons and looked at her daughter through the mirror. Emily Thompson, I didn't raise my daughter to settle for scraps of happiness. You deserve a man who remembers his wedding, who shows up on time, who speaks well of you to his friends. I know, Mum. It just hurts so much. Of course it hurts. It hurts because you invested real feelings in someone who didn't deserve them, but the pain will pass. And when it does, you'll be grateful you were strong today. Emily took off the dress and put on comfortable clothes. As she looked at the dress tossed on the bed, she felt a mix of sadness and relief. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages from friends who'd heard what happened, concerned family, co-workers offering support. Among them, one stood out. It was from Sophia, her best friend from college who lived in New York. "Girl, I just heard what happened. I'm taking the first bus there. Don't be alone." Emily smiled. Sophia had always been impulsive, but her heart was as big as the world. 3 hours later, Sophia arrived with a suitcase and 2 bottles of wine. "Where's the idiot?" were her first words as she walked in. "Sophia," Mrs. Barbara tried to scold her. "I'm sorry, Barbara, but that's what he is, a complete idiot." "He's gone, Marina, and I don't want to talk about it anymore." "Fine, then let's talk about your future, because you have a lot of future ahead of you." The 2 friends sat on the house's porch, each with a glass of wine. "Emily, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Were you happy with him, like truly happy?" Emily thought for a moment. "Emily, I thought I was." "That's not an answer. When you woke up in the morning, were you excited to see him?" "Not always." "And when you went out together, did you feel special?" "Sometimes it felt like he was doing me a favor just by being with me." Marina slammed the table. "There, you answered it yourself. You weren't losing a great love. You were getting rid of a relationship that wasn't good for you." "But Marina, he wasn't a bad person." "Emily, a good person doesn't forget their own wedding. A good person doesn't badmouth their fiancé to friends. A good person doesn't make their partner feel like a charity case." Emily knew her friend was right, but it still hurt to accept she'd wasted 3 years of her life. "So now what? What do I do?" "Now you live. You're 28, beautiful, smart, with a good job. The world is yours." "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is. You're the one making it complicated." That night, Emily struggled to sleep, too. Every time she closed her eyes, she remembered moments with Ryan. Their first kiss, the day he asked her out, the proposal. But she also remembered other things. The times he was late to dates. The times he made her feel needy for wanting attention. The times she held back just to avoid nagging him. The next morning, she woke to her phone ringing. It was Margaret. "Emily, sweetheart, can we talk?" "Margaret, Please, just 5 minutes." Against her better judgment, Emily agreed to meet her at the corner cafe. Margaret arrived with puffy eyes. Clearly, she'd been crying. "Emily, I came to apologize." "Apologize for what, Margaret?" "For raising an irresponsible son, for not teaching him the value of a woman like you." Emily was stunned by her mother-in-law's sincerity. "Margaret, let me finish. Last night when we got home, Ryan's father and I had a serious talk with him, and we found out things we didn't know." "What kind of things?" "That he owes money to a lot of people. That he was using the savings you two were building to pay off gambling debts." Emily's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "He took the $2,000 from your joint savings, said it was for an urgent bill, but it was really for loan sharks." "Loan sharks?" "He's been betting on online games for months, losing a lot of money." Emily leaned back in her chair, stunned. She'd noticed Ryan had been on edge, but he always had an excuse. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve the truth, and because I want you to understand that yesterday you dodged a much bigger problem." "Margaret, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just know that even as his mother, I'm on your side. You did the right thing." The conversation with Margaret completely changed Emily's perspective. It wasn't just about him forgetting the wedding. It was about a pattern of irresponsibility she'd ignored. On her way home, she found Marina organizing her closet. "What are you doing?" "Sorting clothes to donate. You need a fresh start, and that includes a wardrobe refresh." "Marina, I don't have money for new clothes." "Who said anything about buying? We've got a credit card and 3 malls in town. Let's have a princess day." "I'm not in the mood." "That's exactly why you need it. When was the last time you dressed up just for yourself without worrying about what Ryan would think?" Emily Thompson thought. She couldn't remember. There, it's decided. Tomorrow is a day for total renewal. That afternoon, while Marina continued the makeover of her room, Emily decided to take a walk alone. She needed to think, to process everything that had happened. She passed by Joe's bar. The owner was sweeping the sidewalk and greeted her. "Miss, how are you?" "Fine, Mr. Joe. Thank you for what you did yesterday." "I didn't do much. Just told the truth. For a lot of people, that's already a lot." "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. My wife always said God protects those with a pure heart. Yesterday you were protected from an unhappy life." "You think so?" "I'm sure. That young man has no character, and a marriage without character doesn't last." Emily kept walking through the streets of the neighborhood where she'd grown up. Every corner brought back a memory. Every house had a story. She passed by the school she'd attended, the park where she'd played as a child, the church where she'd made her first communion. And for the first time in a long while, she felt like she belonged there, like she had roots in that place. With Ryan, she'd always felt like she had to be someone else, more laid back, less proper, as he'd say. Now she realized she'd spent 3 years trying to fit into a mold that wasn't hers. When she got home, she found her father tending the garden. "Dad, can I help?" "Of course, sweetheart. Grab that little shovel over there." They worked in silence for a few minutes, just enjoying each other's company. "Dad, have you ever regretted an important decision in your life?" Robert stopped digging and looked at his daughter. "I've regretted some decisions I didn't make." "What do you mean?" "When I was young, I had the chance to try for a better job in another city, but I was afraid to leave my comfort zone, afraid it wouldn't work out." "And you regretted it?" "I regretted not trying, not because life here was bad, but because I always wonder how things would have been if I'd had the courage." "Is this about me?" "It is. You had courage yesterday, sweetheart. The courage not to settle for less than you deserve. That's something not everyone has." "But what if I end up alone forever?" "Sweetheart, better alone than in bad company. And you won't be alone. A woman like you will always have people who value her." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. On Monday, Emily returned to work at the school where she taught English. All her colleagues already knew what had happened, but tried to act normal. During the break, the principal, Mrs. Jennifer, called her into her office. "Emily, how are you?" "Better than I expected, Mrs. Jennifer." "That's good. You know you can count on me for anything, right?" "Thank you. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. An opportunity came up that might interest you." "What kind of opportunity?" "The city is starting an adult education program in the evenings. They need a coordinator. It's a position of trust, with a better salary than your current one." Emily was intrigued. "Why did you think of me?" "Because you're the right fit. You're responsible, dedicated, and good with people of all ages. But I don't have any experience in coordination. Everyone has to start somewhere, and after what happened over the weekend, I thought a change might be good for you. Can I think about it?" "Of course, but don't take too long. They want to finalize it by the end of the week." The rest of the day, Emily kept thinking about the offer. It was a chance to grow professionally, to do something new. That night, she talked to Marina about the opportunity. "Take it, of course. It's the universe giving you a little push. But what if I can't handle it? What if it's too hard? What if it all works out? What if it's exactly what you need to start over? You've always been braver than me. It's not about bravery, it's about self-worth. You need to believe in yourself more." On Tuesday, Emily went to see Mrs. Jennifer and accepted the offer. The director was overjoyed. "You won't regret this. I'm sure it'll be a success." "I hope so. And Emily, can I give you some advice?" "Of course. Sometimes the bad things that happen are just the universe making room for good things." On Wednesday, Ryan showed up at the school. Emily was leaving when she saw him leaning against her car. "Emily, we need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about, Ryan." "I do. I want to apologize to you. For real this time." "You already did. And I already said no. But it's different now. Now I understand what I did wrong." Emily sighed. Part of her wanted to walk away, but another part needed to hear what he had to say. Fine, 5 minutes. Emily, I know I was an idiot. I know I disrespected you, humiliated you in front of everyone. Go on. And I also know I have issues I need to work through on my own. What kind of issues? Ryan hesitated. Gambling, money, responsibility. Your mother told me about the savings. She did? Yes, and about the debts too. Ryan hung his head. I wanted to tell you, but I was afraid you'd leave me. And you thought hiding it was better. I thought I could fix it myself. Ryan, do you realize you hid the very things a wife should know? I do, and I also realize I'm not ready for marriage. Emily was surprised by his honesty. At least you're being truthful now. I am. And that's why I want to ask you something. What? Give me 6 months. 6 months to sort my life out, get help, become a man who deserves you. Ryan, I know it's a lot to ask. I know I hurt you deeply. But I love you, Emily. Truly. If you really loved me, you wouldn't have put me in that situation. You're right. But love isn't just a feeling. It's action. And I want to learn how to do the right thing. Emily looked at the man she'd once planned to spend her life with. He seemed smaller, more fragile than she remembered. Ryan, even if you fix all your problems, I don't know if I could ever trust you again. I understand. I'm just asking for a chance to try. And I'm saying I can't give you that chance, not now. What about later? I don't know. Honestly, I don't. Ryan nodded, resigned. Can I ask you one more thing? Go ahead. Don't forget me completely. If one day you think I've really changed, Ryan, if you truly want to change, do it for yourself, not for me. You're right. He stepped back from the car, but turned around one last time. Emily, you're the best person I've ever known. And the biggest mistake of my life was not realizing that sooner. Emily got into her car with a heavy heart. Part of her was moved by Ryan's words, but the rational part knew words couldn't undo actions. At home, she told Marina about the conversation. So, what did you think? I think he was being honest. For the first time, he admitted his mistakes without making excuses. But does that change anything? I don't know. Probably not. Emily, can I give you my opinion? Of course. He might be sincere now, but where was that sincerity during your 3 years together? Where was it the day before the wedding? You're right. And another thing, you can't wait around hoping he'll become the person you need. You deserve someone who already is that person. I know. It's just hard to erase 3 years of history. You don't have to erase it. You just have to learn from it. On Thursday, Emily had her first meeting at City Hall about the new position. She met the team she would be working with and felt excited about the project. The adult education program would serve people who hadn't had the opportunity to study at the right age. Many were mothers, workers who needed a diploma to advance professionally, or elderly individuals who wanted to fulfill a long-held dream. Emily, said the Secretary of Education, you'll coordinate 5 classes with about 30 students each. They're very motivated but also very different. It'll be a challenge. I'm ready for the challenge. Good, you start next Monday. Leaving the City Hall, Emily felt more excited than she had in months. She had a new purpose, a goal that didn't involve marriage or relationships. Over the weekend, Marina returned to New York, but not before extracting a promise from Emily. Promise me you'll live your life, that you won't wait for Ryan or any other man to be happy. I promise. And promise you'll visit me in New York during your vacation? I promise. And promise you'll go out, meet new people, have fun? Marina, promise. Fine, I promise. Good, because you're too young to hide at home. On Monday, Emily started her new job. The first day was hectic with introductions, meetings, and lesson planning. That evening, during her first session with the students, she was moved by the stories she heard. Dorothy, 65, wanted to finish high school to help her grandchildren with their homework. Frank, 50, needed his diploma to get promoted at the factory where he'd worked for 20 years. Amanda, 35, had dropped out to work and support her younger siblings, but now wanted to resume her studies. Each story was an example of determination, people who hadn't given up on their dreams despite the hardships. "Miss Emily," Dorothy said at the end of class, "you're too young to be taking care of old folks like us." "Dorothy, you're not old. And I'm here because I believe it's never too late to learn." "Are you married?" "No, Dorothy." "Seeing someone?" "No." "What a waste. A smart, pretty girl like you." Emily smiled. "Dorothy, a person doesn't need someone else to be complete." "That's true. But company is nice. When it's the right person, absolutely." Emily was really enjoying her new job. The students were dedicated, hard-working, and grateful for the chance to study again. A few weeks later, during a staff meeting, she met Daniel Wilson, a psychologist who would teach personal development classes. "You're the famous Emily everyone's praising?" he introduced himself. "Famous for what?" "The way you're running the program. The students can't stop talking about you. They're amazing people. It makes the job easier." "I agree. I've worked with adult education before. It's very rewarding." Daniel was a friendly man, around 35, divorced, and the father of an 8-year-old girl. Over the following weeks, they developed a professional friendship that naturally extended beyond work. "Emily, would you like to grab coffee after the meeting?" he asked one Thursday. "Sure." Over coffee, they talked about work, the students, and life. "Can I ask you a personal question?" Daniel said. "Go ahead." "Are you single by choice or circumstance?" Emily hesitated. It was the first time someone had asked her that since the wedding incident. "Circumstance. I ended a long relationship a few weeks ago." "Was it painful?" "Yes, but necessary." "I understand. I went through that when I got divorced." "What's it like having a child in that situation?" "Complicated. But Sophia is a strong girl. She understands that sometimes people separate because they care, not because they hate each other." "How mature." "Kids are wiser than we think." The conversation flowed naturally between them. Emily felt at ease, not having to play a role or hide parts of her personality. "Matthew, can I ask you something too?" "Of course." "Don't you think it's odd to talk about relationships with a coworker? I think we're adults, and I also think honest conversations are rare these days." "That's true. What about you? Do you think it's odd?" "No. Actually, it's refreshing to talk to someone without ulterior motives." "Who said I don't have ulterior motives?" he said, smiling. Emily blushed. "Sorry, I didn't mean... I'm joking. But I admit I enjoy your company. I enjoy yours too. So how about we plan another coffee, this time not to talk about work? Matthew, I'm still getting over the breakup. I'm not asking you to marry me, just to have coffee." Emily laughed. "When you put it that way, is that a yes?" "It's a yes." The following Saturday, they met at a cafe downtown. The conversation was even smoother than the first time. Matthew talked about his divorce, the challenges of raising a daughter alone, and how he'd learned to value real relationships. Emily spoke about the cancelled wedding, realizing she'd spent years trying to be someone she wasn't, and how she was learning to like herself again. "Emily, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "That guy who left you at the altar did you the biggest favor of his life." "Why?" "Because he saved you from an unhappy life, and in the process, set you on the path to discovering who you really are." "You think so?" "I'm sure. The woman sitting here with me is far more interesting than the one trying to fit into a mold that wasn't hers." "How do you know I was trying to fit in?" "By how you talk about that relationship. You never mention what you wanted, only what he wanted or expected." Emily was impressed by Matthew's insight. "You're right. I lost myself a lot. And now? Now I'm learning to have my own opinions again." "And what's your opinion about this coffee?" "That it was really good, and I'd like to do it again." "Good, because I would too." The meetings between Emily and Matthew became more frequent. They went to the movies, took walks in the park, talked for hours about everything and nothing. 3 months after the cancelled wedding, Emily finally felt ready to consider the possibility of a new relationship. "Matthew, I want you to meet my family," she said one Sunday afternoon. "Are you sure?" Isn't it too soon? It's the right time. Then I accept. But I warn you, I get nervous around girlfriends' parents. Girlfriend? She smiled. Who said I'm your girlfriend? No one yet. But I was waiting for the right moment to ask. And when would that be? Now. Emily, will you be my girlfriend? Yes. The family Sunday was a success. Barbara adored Matthew. Robert approved of his daughter's choice, and Grandpa George said she'd finally found a real man. Matthew, Barbara said in the kitchen, thank you for making my daughter smile again. Barbara, she's the one who makes me smile. I should be thanking you. You two make a lovely couple, and she deserves to be happy. She really does. A few weeks later, Matthew introduced Sophia to Emily. The girl was smart, affectionate, and immediately took a special liking to her father's new girlfriend. Emily, you're way cooler than my dad's other girlfriends, Sophia said as they played in the park. Your dad had a lot of girlfriends? Not a lot, but none played with me like you do. I love to play. Are you going to marry my dad? Sophia, we're still getting to know each other. But do you like him? I like him a lot. And does he like you? I think so. Then you'll get married, just like in the movies. Emily laughed at the simplicity of the child's logic. 6 months after the cancelled wedding, Emily was unrecognizable. She had lost weight, changed her hairstyle, and refreshed her wardrobe. But the biggest change was inside. She was confident, happy, fulfilled. The adult education program was a success. Every student from the first class had completed the school year with excellent results. Teacher Emily, said Mrs. Dorothy at the graduation, you changed my life. Mrs. Dorothy, you're the one who changed your life. I just gave you the tools. That's not true. You believed in us when even we didn't believe in ourselves. That's what makes the difference. And what about you? Are you happy? Very happy, Mrs. Dorothy? And the boyfriend? He is too. That's wonderful. You deserve all the happiness in the world. At the graduation party, Daniel was there with Sophia. The little girl had drawn a picture for Emily, showing the three of them as a family. Do you like the drawing? Sophia asked. I love it. It's beautiful. It's how I imagine us. Emily looked at Daniel, who smiled and shrugged. Sophia has a very vivid imagination. And a very accurate one, Emily murmured. That night, walking through the square after the party, Daniel stopped under a tree. Emily, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you believe in new beginnings? I do. Why? Because a year ago, we were in completely different places. You preparing for a wedding that didn't happen, me still recovering from my divorce. That's true. And now we're here, together, happy. We are. So, do you believe that sometimes bad things happen to make room for good things? I do. Completely. Good, because I want to propose a new beginning to you. What kind of new beginning? Daniel knelt and pulled a small box from his pocket. Emily Thompson, will you marry me? Emily was speechless for a few seconds. Daniel, are you sure? Absolutely. You made me believe in love again, made me want to be a better man, and Sophia loves you just as much as I do. But what if it doesn't work out? What if it does? Emily remembered her conversation with Jennifer months ago. The same words, but now they made perfect sense. Yes, I want to marry you. The ring was simple, delicate, exactly the way Emily liked it. Very different from the flashy ring Ryan had chosen. Daniel, can I ask you something? Anything. When we set the ceremony date, don't forget to show up on time. He laughed and kissed her. I promise I'll be an hour early. A year later, in a small and intimate ceremony, Emily and Daniel got married. Only close family and dear friends were present. Mrs. Dorothy, who had become a great friend, made sure to attend. Teacher Emily, now you truly look radiant. Thank you, Mrs. Dorothy. And this young man is much better than the other one. Much better. See, sometimes God has to close a door to open a window. Jennifer came from New York just for the wedding. Friend, you look stunning. Thank you for encouraging me to move forward. I didn't do anything. You were the one brave enough to start over. I really was, huh? You were, and you chose right this time. During the ceremony, Emily looked at the faces of the people she loved. Her father, proud and emotional. Her mother, crying with joy. Grandpa George, who had lived long enough to see his granddaughter find happiness. Daniel was nervous, but present. Fully present. Sophia, as the flower girl, carried the rings with the seriousness of an adult. Father Michael, the same one who was supposed to officiate the previous wedding, smiled as he declared them husband and wife. Emily, this time the groom arrived on time. He did, Father, and with the right intentions. 2 years later, Emily and Daniel were expecting their first child. Sophia, now 11 years old, was thrilled at the idea of being a big sister. Emily, do you regret anything? Daniel asked one evening as they set up the nursery. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not even that wedding that never happened. Especially that wedding that never happened. Why? Because if it had happened, I wouldn't be here with you and Sophia, waiting for our son. True. And you? Do you regret anything? I regret not meeting you sooner. If you'd met me sooner, maybe I wouldn't be the person I am today. That's also true. Emily gently touched her belly and smiled. Daniel, can I tell you a secret? Of course. Sometimes I thank Ryan for forgetting about that wedding. Really? Really? Because it was the best mistake he ever made in his life, and the best thing that ever happened to mine. You're right. And you know why? Why? Because it taught me that I deserve someone who remembers me, not just on the wedding day, but every single day of my life. Daniel kissed her forehead. And you'll have that for the rest of your life. Promise? I promise. 5 years later, Emily stood on the porch of their new home, watching Daniel play in the yard with Sophia, now a teenager, and Ethan, their 2-year-old son. She had become the director of the adult education program, which now served 3 towns in the area. Daniel had opened his own psychology practice. They were a happy family, built on a solid foundation of respect, companionship, and true love. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Emily, it's Ryan. I know this might seem strange after all this time, but I wanted to thank you for not giving me a second chance. I went to therapy, worked through my issues, and I'm a better person now. I married an amazing woman last year, and we're very happy. I hope you're happy too. You deserve all the happiness in the world. Emily showed the message to Daniel. So, how do you feel? Happy for him, and grateful I had the courage to say no. Are you going to reply? Yes. I'll wish him well and thank him for forgetting about our wedding. Thank him? Of course. If he hadn't forgotten, I wouldn't have realized I deserved so much more than what I was getting. Emily typed a simple reply. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. I'm very happy too. Sometimes things happen exactly as they're meant to. As she sent the message, she felt like she was finally closing a chapter of her life. Daniel, do you believe in fate? I believe we shape our own fate with our choices. And do you think I made the right ones? Look around you, Emily. You have a family who loves you, a job that fulfills you, a life you built with your own hands. If that's not making the right choices, I don't know what is. Emily smiled and called Ethan, who ran into her arms. Mommy, Daddy said we're going to the park tomorrow. That's right. We'll spend the whole day there. And is Soph coming too? Of course she is. Ethan clapped his hands excitedly. I love our family. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. That night, after putting Ethan to bed and talking to Sophia about their weekend plans, Emily and Daniel were alone on the porch. Do you remember the day we met? Daniel asked. Of course. You asked if I was the famous Emily everyone praised. And you got flustered. I did. I was still learning how to accept compliments. And now I know I deserve them. Good. Because I plan to compliment you for the rest of my life. And I plan to believe them. Daniel took her hand and brushed his thumb over her wedding ring. Emily, do you know what I admire most about you? What? The courage you had to start over. Of not accepting less than I deserved. It was hard, but you did it. We did it. Because you helped me believe I deserved to be loved the right way. And what's it like to be loved the right way? It's knowing the person will be there when they promise they will. It's being able to be myself without fear of judgment. It's sharing dreams and truly building a life together. Is that what we have? That's what we have. They stayed silent for a few minutes, just enjoying each other's company and the sound of cicadas in the garden. Daniel, can I confess something? Always. Sometimes I think about what my life would have been like if I'd married Ryan. And then I feel sorry for the Emily that never existed. The one who would have spent her life trying to please someone who didn't value her. But she never existed. She didn't, because I had the courage to say no, and that's one of the decisions I'm proudest of in my life. What about the other decisions? The decision to accept the job at City Hall, the decision to give you a chance, the decision to marry you, the decision to build this family. All the right ones. All the right ones. Ethan woke up crying, and Emily went to calm him. When she returned, she found Daniel setting the table for the next morning's breakfast. You don't have to do that now. I want to. I like taking care of you. And I like being taken care of. It took me a while to learn that. Learn what? That it's good to be taken care of. That accepting help isn't weakness. That a relationship is a true partnership. It really is. In my last relationship, I always felt like I had to prove I deserved attention. With you, I know I do. Of course you do. You deserve that and so much more. And you, are you happy with us? Emily, I wake up every day grateful I found you, for having a real family, for learning what it means to truly love and be loved. That's good. And you know what makes me happiest? What? Knowing Sophia and Ethan are growing up in a house full of love. They'll know what a healthy relationship looks like because they'll see us living it every day. That's true. They'll have a good example. The best example. The next morning, as promised, they went to the park as a family. Sophia brought a book to read under the tree, Ethan played on the swings, Daniel played soccer with other kids, and Emily watched her family, feeling like the luckiest woman in the world. "Mommy," Ethan ran up to her. "Are you happy?" "Very happy, sweetheart." "I'm happy too." "And why are you happy?" "Because we're together." Emily hugged him tight. In the simplicity of a 2-year-old's words was life's greatest truth. Happiness lies in the simple moments with the right people. "Ethan, do you want to know a secret?" "Yes." "Mommy wasn't always this happy." "No?" "No. But one day, I learned something very important." "What?" "That we can't just accept any kind of love. We have to wait for the right love." Ethan looked at her with a puzzled expression, but nodded anyway. "And Daddy is the right love?" "Daddy is the right love. And me?" "You and Sophia are the most right loves there are." Ethan smiled and ran back to play. Sophia walked over to Emily. "I heard your talk with Ethan." "You did?" "I did. And I wanted to thank you." "Thank me for what?" "For waiting for the right love. Because if you hadn't, you wouldn't have met my dad, and I wouldn't have gotten such an amazing mom." Emily's eyes welled up. "Sophia, I'm the one who got an incredible daughter." "That's true, but you know what else? What? You taught me that a woman doesn't have to settle just to avoid being alone." "What do you mean?" "My dad told me about the marriage that didn't happen, and he said you were really brave for not accepting being treated badly." "And what did you think?" "I think you're my example of a strong woman." Emily hugged Sophia, moved. "Thank you for welcoming me into your family. Thank you for making my father happy again." End of story. Now tell us, what did you think of Emily's story? Do you think she made the right decision by calling off the wedding? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.